right, hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Earth's Mightiest Comics, the show where every episode we talk about some recent-ish comics from the past couple of weeks that we have been reading, and we let you know what we thought about them, if we enjoy them, and if we are recommending them to all of you guys, the audience. We got some stuff to talk about, as always. It is a lighter week by far, because we are talking about the Wednesday, October 30th, which is the 5th Wednesday of October. And as is typical, whenever there's a 5th Wednesday of the month, the output for the comic companies that week is much lower than standard. But there's still some stuff to talk about, like Ultimate X-Men, like Redcoat, like Captain America, like new issue of The Nice House by the Sea. But we're going to start off with Wolverine Revenge, number 3, written by Jonathan Hickman. And the artist is Greg Capullo. There's been some behind the scenes stuff actually with this series as well, with the artist Greg Capullo just tweeting about the colorist of this book for not meeting deadlines or something, and then the colorist just quit the book. So that is why the last couple issues of this book have been delayed, because it doesn't currently have a colorist. Setting that aside, though, I mean, I think this is still good. I definitely enjoy this series still. I don't know if I think this is better or worse than the previous 2 issues. My main thing with this issue is, because essentially, this issue is mostly a series of fights that Wolverine is getting into. So he goes, and he first goes to fight Omega Red. He fights Omega Red, kills Omega Red, and in that process learns that the power source they had to, keep their reactor running actually will not do so for a very long time. So it is still kind of it's on a shorter clock than they kind of thought it was. So Logan kills Omega Red, goes up to the top of the nuclear reactor area where Deadpool also is. And I do think this is the best part of the issue here, actually, because Logan and Wade have actually a very, I think, just nice and good character moment talk here, where we are kind of seeing that it's a very reflective conversation between the two of them, where they're talking about this whole, just in general, both of the shit that they've done, all the people they've killed and everything, but also how the world has been impacted by the fall of Asteroid M and the EMP that just then wiped out all electronics on Earth, basically. And it is a nice moment between the two of them. I think that conversation is the highlight of this issue, and it's the kind of thing that Jonathan Hickman, I think, is really good at writing. Because the rest of the series is just kind of a big action throwdown. It's mostly there to showcase Greg Capullo's art. And it does a very good job at that. His art is amazing in this. But I do think that, it hasn't been as good of a showcase for Hickman's writing as a lot of his other series, because it is so kind of straightforward. Wolverine just going around and killing everybody. This issue, though, this conversation with Wade, I think did help with that. And I do think that was the highlight of the issue. So then after that, Wade kind of thinks he's going to team up with Logan and go and take down Colossus and try and save everything. And then Logan kind of lets him think this and then pushes him into the reactor anyway. That was a little bit weird to me. I don't know why he wouldn't have pushed him in to begin with, instead of trying to make him think that he would have come with him. So that was weird. I didn't know about that. But, outside of that, I think that conversation was very good. And then Logan goes and kills Colossus, has a fight with Colossus, kills Colossus. And first of all, did you get the Red Band edition or the standard?
I always get the Red Band always comes out a week later for me.
I did read the Red Band. I was able to get my hands on the Red Band. And I do think this, it is gnarlier here than I think it has been in some of the other Red Band editions. So that was good. There are some pages in there that I think do more with the Red Band label than a lot of this other stuff has previously. However, again, I do still have problems with some of the, Red Band model of books in general. Regardless of that, though, I think the action is all pretty good. Again, Greg Capullo's art is fantastic, so that does help. I think the problem, this, to be fair, not a problem yet. For me, though, I did find myself wondering, well, what now? Because the whole kind of point that was laid out in this issue was this was going to be, Wolverine, in this series rather, this was going to be Wolverine fighting this new, Brotherhood of Mutants, who killed Captain America and Bucky. And now he's killed all of them. There aren't any left in that group. So where does the series go from here? Because there's 2 issues left. I think it could go one of 2 ways. It could feel like there's kind of no more ground to cover, and so nothing kind of really substantial happens. Or this could be where Jonathan Hickman throws a twist into it that then does kind of tie it together and make it feel more Hickman-esque, make it feel like it kind of elevates the series a little bit more in the typical Hickman fashion. I obviously hope it's that one. We'll just have to wait and see. I do think, though, this issue itself, it's good. The action is good. I do think they should have maybe spaced out the fights a little bit here. I just think they're 3 in 1 issue feels like kind of a lot. But I do think I think Hickman has a very good handle on the voice of Logan. That is something that I think his own solo, main solo series does not have down yet. So still good. I do still like it. It's not the best Wolverine series there is right now. I think that goes to Uncanny X-Men because he is a major player in that series. But I do still like it. I am interested to see where this goes from here now that the main conflict seems to be wrapped up. I hope that Hickman can throw some kind of interesting Hickmanisms into it. And if he does, I think this series could end up being actually kind of better than we feel it is right now and elevate itself into something that's even cooler.
No, yeah, this one, I think, when I first saw, like, after reading the first one, I thought it was going to be like, that he goes off and kills one of them each thing until, like, the fifth and final one, where I had assumed it was going to be Colossus because he, like, it was, like, the closest one to him and stuff like that. But, guess not. Yeah, he finished them off this one. I also enjoyed the conversation between him and Deadpool. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty nice conversation, very well written and stuff like that. And I wasn't that surprised that he pushed him back into the reactor and stuff like that. He was still planned on killing everybody that was like a part of what happened in the first issue. I think he just he let Wade think that he was going to come with him just to just to give him that like sense of hope or something, and then just like rip it away at the very end or something.
See, that was the problem I had with it. I think Logan would have just pushed him in to begin with. I don't think you would have let him get that back. Yeah.
No, yeah, and that part I can see, yeah, too. What else? No, yeah, I'm kind of just interested to see where this goes. Maybe it's going to be just like kind of like us into the mind of Wolverine and like a bit maybe. Just like with that, now that everything that has happened, like what's next for this Wolverine specifically? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to see where this is going forward because I don't know. I would have liked to honestly see more action in the fights. Like I feel like they're just nothing. I feel like he just sneezes on them and then they die. Like.
I think Colossus's was the most substantial, particularly in the Red Band edition. That one gets pretty brutal. I think there's an extra page in that fight for that one. For me, I think Omega Red went down too easy.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially. I think Deadpool was fine because there's no fight there really. It's just, conversation.
No, Deadpool was fine.
I was surprised to see that we didn't get a resolution to the Sabretooth fight in this issue. At the start, they're just kind of like, yeah, he's dead, move on. Even though the last issue was a cliffhanger of, them having to throw down further. So I kind of agree, but I think it mostly gets the balance okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have liked to see more of actual fights between everybody and stuff. I don't know.
So in your edition, by the way, did Wolverine get his arm like fully ripped off? Okay.
Yes, it did.
With like blood and everything, and then did Colossus get like cut in half, and then you see his guts?
I didn't see his guts. I did see his he was bleeding from the stomach. No, yeah, but I don't know. I still think this one was pretty good. I don't know. It's kind of getting less and I'm liking them less and less. Honestly, I really like the first one, and then it's after I've realized how it's being structured, I've kind of liked it less and less. But I still think it's not bad by any means though. But yeah, I thought it was gonna be a little different than this. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7 though. I don't think it's bad.
I'm gonna give it tentatively an 8, but it is a low 8. It's a lower 8 than it's been the past couple times. This is probably my favorite cover of the week though. Cool cover, like that cover quite a bit. But yeah, I think this has the potential to get way better, but it also could drop off more. So we'll see kind of how it goes next issue. Yeah.
Well, all right. It happened on Hyde Street. Devour #1. Let's see here. We got Maytul Jat. Artist is Layla Lays. Yeah, so this is a kind of like side story inside of the universe of the Hyde Street. This one focuses
that's why I didn't read it.
Yeah, well, it was good. You should have read it. It was pretty good. You saw the Boy Scout dude, and I could be looking into it too much, or I think you saw in the background the other guy, the main character,
Mr. X-Ray.
Yeah, I think so. But this one focuses on the Miss Goodbody. It basically starts off with this mother that had just given birth, and she was eating something, and she happened upon Miss Goodbody's store, and it's just the weight loss store essentially. It's just a bunch of like weight loss supplements and all that stuff. And so the mother is still talking about like how like nothing ever works on her and yada yada. And Miss Goodbody's like, nah, you take this and you only need it once to take it once ever. So, she like takes it home, eventually eats, opens the what would that be called? The packaging for what Miss Goodbody gave her. And, you don't see what it truly is until towards the end. But I'll get to that later. But yeah, so it then skips forward like a bunch of generations, genuinely. There's a great grandmother, there's a grandmother, and then there's a mother now. And so basically, the new main character now is trying to fit into her wedding dress, and she's a bit too big for it. So she basically just does a bunch of diet and exercise and all this stuff, and she still doesn't fit into it. But she's not quitting and giving up and stuff. And one day at work, the great grandmother, the one that I believe the one that originally took the supplements, came in and basically said that the grandmother, her daughter, was crazy, and that basically it ended up being that the mother force fed the new main character the supplement, and it turns out to be like this like parasite that like goes inside of you and basically eats your stomach essentially. So you never actually gain any nutrients. You'll like eat and you won't gain any weight because you don't gain anything at all. And so yeah, I guess it just basically makes you insanely skinny until you just die. And that's basically it. Yeah, I don't know. I think the art was pretty good. It took me a second to figure out who was who. They did not explain that at all. It went from the first lady you meet opening the supplement to then like 3-4 generations later, and you're just like trying to figure out like, okay, wait, who was that lady? Because she don't look the same. I think it was the grandmother or the great grandmother. It was one of the two. I am not sure specifically. But besides that, I think the story is pretty good. I don't know why I like this Hyde Street story so much. This one did not focus at all on the Hyde Street specifically. Obviously, it took place on Hyde Street because you saw Mr. X-Ray and Frankie. Yeah, it didn't focus on like anything of like the kills or anything like that, except for like the very last panel you saw that like supplements sold was like 9,998. So I assume that might be kills or just how many people have. It might just also be just how many people have actually taken the supplement, but I don't know. But yeah, I thought this one was pretty good. I didn't think it was bad by any means. Art was great, and yeah, no, that's pretty much it though. I liked it. I'm gonna give it an 8.
All right. Well, maybe I'll read that at some point. I don't know. It wasn't written by Jeff Johns, and it was a one shot, so I didn't feel like it was that essential to the Hyde Street thing overall. And it probably still isn't, but maybe I'll give it a try at some point. Okay, well, I'll talk about the one that I solo read this week, which would be Batman: The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue number 2, written by Jeff Loeb, and the artist is Klaus Janson on this one. So last time I talked about the series, I mentioned that I had not read basically any of Dark Victory, and I was going to try and read all of it before the next issue of this dropped. Update on that, I have not read the rest of Dark Victory. I've read 3 more issues of Dark Victory, so I'm like a third of the way through that series right now. Again, I don't feel like I'm missing much context in this series as a result of that, but yeah, I don't have all of the context because of that. However, this issue basically it's Batman in full detective mode. Sebastian would actually probably really like this issue. And it is actually probably my pick of the week. So we start off with Batman and Robin are at Arkham trying to find out who this new person who is kidnapping people is, if they are in some way related to Holiday again. So Bruce asked the Mad Hatter, the Mad Hatter, and the Mad Hatter name drops the Penguin, and then we find out that Catwoman, we thought got kidnapped, but actually she's just been laying low in Arkham. Like she went to Arkham intentionally to get medical care from the doctor there, and is just laying low there while Holiday is out because Holiday's been a big problem in the other 2 series. Granted, like this is probably not actually the original Holiday. As far as I'm aware, he's maybe dead. But so yeah, anyway, she's hiding out there while these new killings and kidnappings are happening. So somewhere along the line, someone else gets kidnapped or killed. I don't remember exactly who or what. I know they do. Like there's a group of people that kill Solomon Grundy right at the start, and then Bruce goes and talks to some other guy who also is talking about the Penguin. So then he goes to try and find the Penguin, chases the Penguin down, and then in the process of him chasing the Penguin down, the Penguin gets shot, and then that gets pinned on Batman, and like he is the new Holiday killer or something. Because the person who shoots Penguin, it's like the Scarecrow gang, and they split pretty quick, and then Batman is just there at the scene. So that's where the issue ends. And yeah, I still think this is good. I do like this series quite a lot so far. Again, this is going to be a 10-issue limited series. So we are, at the 20% mark right now. And I do like, this is part of what I like with the Long Halloween. And Sebastian and I have thought about a lot how we appreciate when Batman goes full detective mode. This is very much that. It's very entrenched in this mystery. All of these series have been. That is like the core part of this Long Halloween saga that Jeff Loeb has been building for, like 3 decades now at this point. I will say the art is a little bit jarring here. Of course, that's going to happen when you have a series where every issue is a different artist. But I do think that, like, last issue, we had Eduardo Riso, who, while still had his own style, I do feel like the style was closer to Tim Sale's. This one, Klaus Jansson's is not. Granted, though, and shout out to the Pop Culture Philosophers YouTube channel for pointing this out, because it made a lot of sense to me once I read this. They do great weekly comic book reviews over there as well. The paneling in this is very similar to Tim Sale's art in those original series, and that does actually make it still feel somewhat consistent with Tim Sale's art, even if not in actual pencils, in terms of at least how the art is structured on the page. As far as the art itself, I do think it is a bit of a step down. I preferred Eduardo Riso's art last issue. However, Klaus Janson, I have a ton of respect for. He is an industry giant. Like, he is a huge, huge figure in the comic industry, going back all the way to, the 80s and before, even, where he was probably best well known for inking Frank Miller's art on the Frank Miller Daredevil run, which kind of, made that character popular and kind of into the version of the character that he continues to be to this day. I believe he also went and just drew Daredevil once Frank Miller stopped drawing it at one point as well. But so, a fantastic artist. I have a huge amount of respect for Klaus Janson. Just didn't necessarily work with me here, and it did feel kind of odd compared to the previous issue, and then also compared to Tim Sale's pencils themselves from those original 2 series. But I do still think the series is good. It is almost making me, because I was planning to drop the core Batman book once Chip Zdarsky leaves in a few months. But Jeff Loeb is who's going to be taking over. And while I'm not entirely convinced on that, because it is seeming like it's going to be kind of another Hush story or something, I am more open to sticking around and seeing what he does with that main book once Chip Zdarsky leaves. So as for this issue, again, good stuff. I do like it quite a bit. I'm going to give it a 9. I think it's a very solid outing, and probably my pick of the week for the week.
All right, let's see here. Let's get rid of this. Namor number 4.
Okay. All right. This is Namor number 4, written by Jason Aaron, and the artist is, again, two artists, Paul Davidson and Alex Linz. Okay, so I'm still not planning to continue reading the series. Sebastian keeps making me.
Yes.
But I'm still not planning to continue the series on my own. However, that being said, this might be my favorite issue of the series. I don't think it's great, but it does have stuff that I think is better in this issue than it is in previous ones. Essentially, this issue, again, we have the past stuff, we have the present day stuff. The past stuff, the flashback stuff, is Namor basically after his involvement with Kailani and kind of her filling him in on the poverty and just just not great living situation that a lot of the other undersea dwellers face that are not the royalty of Atlantis. After Kailani let him know that they're all facing that, Namor now is trying to improve their situation by basically going and getting food for them against the wishes of his grandfather, King Thakor. He goes and hunts from the royal shipping lanes and gives that to the people living in those kind of outskirts of the Atlantis area. And when the royal class finds out about this, they want to try and basically just whip all of the townspeople who ate the food, but then Namor's like, no, I gave them the food. And so they, instead, for every villager that took a bite of the food, Namor gets 100 lashes from the whip. And then ultimately he decides, he says, like, I'm not going to keep hunting in your hunting lanes, but I am just going to buy this bar and give free food and drink to everybody who goes to it. That's the past flashback stuff. Present day stuff, we have after the end of the last issue, Namor is talking to the seaweed men. They're, these kind of humanoid beings that are like made of coral, and they're kind of raising this army of these huge, massive, way larger versions of other undersea creatures that have been kind of, growing in the deep depths of the oceans. So Namor tries to kind of reason with them, ultimately says, fuck it, I'm not going to get through to you guys, goes off and tries to goes to the site where this whale was kind of sounding off in distress, because it was being killed by Orca and a bunch of people who are following him. Namor goes, fights a bunch of them. The seaweed men then show up, and Orca tells Namor basically that all his people are starving, and that's why they're doing this, was to try and just get food. And so, there's a bit of a fight there, and then how does this like end? Like, what's the actual end?
Fucking hell, how does this end? Oh, that's right. He comes upon Atlantis.
Oh, right. He was fighting in the site of Atlantis and has kind of destroyed some of it. So, okay, I think this issue is kind of the perfect encapsulation of both the good and the bad of this series. I think on the good side, we have some really cool character moments from Namor, and I actually think the flashback stuff is good and is a good encapsulation of... It's adding to the sympathetic nature of Namor's character without taking away the asshole stuff that kind of defined his early days in the Marvel Universe. I think that stuff works. I liked seeing his, attempts to bring food to the people of Atlantis that were less well off. Really badass moment as well when he's being whipped. There's a point where he's saying, like, yeah, the people who are whipping me started like crying out from how, much their arms were hurting from just currently always just throwing that whip out. And then Namor just never made a sound the whole time, just stared in silent determination. That's a cool Namor moment. I really liked in the present day stuff, the first part with the seaweed man, I think was super cool, and seeing them raise that army, I think was visually very impressive and very cool. I also like there are points where there will be narration boxes saying like, hail to the scion of Atlantis, hail to the glory of Atlantis, the bustling, glistening, citadel of the oceans. Every time it does that, right, it's this like kind of, it's this very 60s captioning, this very 60s, narration, this kind of this glorious, kind of over the top, hyperbolic praise of the glory of the city. But every time it does that narration, it's over scenes of like intense destruction to kind of then juxtapose that and show the, the comparisons between, the kind of overly pompous and arrogant and just like, self, pumping up of Atlantis with the bloodshed and the destruction that kind of characterizes a lot of the actual inner mechanisms of Atlantis. I think that is all good stuff. Where I think this issue kind of falls apart is the fight with Orca is just kind of generic, and I don't think it's that interesting. It's not really any different than the other undersea fights we've had in this series so far, and that kind of stuff is just, that's where I find this series falters when it's doing cool individual character moments. When it's doing some of that more societal commentary, I think this series does work. It's just the plot itself, the main plot and the main conflict of this, of all these factions warring for control of Atlantis. That is where this series, I think, is faltering. And that's kind of a problem, because that is the main driving force of events in the series, is that main plot. And so that's ultimately why I do not plan to continue with the series still, is that I like a lot of the stuff that is surrounding the plot, but the plot itself just isn't doing it for me. So again, I do think this showcases kind of the best and worst of this series. I do think it's probably the best issue of this series overall, but it does still have a lot of the stuff that I don't like about the series as well.
What can I say about this, man? Whew, man. Okay, listen, I don't really like the present day stuff. I'm actually super interested in the stuff that happens in the past. I think it's literally has been the highlight of all of these comics so far. I think that it's super interesting, and I think, I don't know, he feels like an entirely different Namor. Like you said, like he still feels like an ass. I don't see it at all. Like, I don't see it at all.
It's less that he's an asshole in the past day, in the flashback stuff. It's more that it doesn't bring him so far to being sympathetic where you don't see how he could end up being that asshole again once he grows up more and starts attacking the ocean, attacking the surface world. Yeah, I still think that it feels consistent enough with his character where it doesn't suddenly make it seem like, well, why would he have attacked all those, surface dwellers and everything?
Yeah, no, I'm assuming, like the surface dwellers did something to Atlantis and that's why he attacks them. Like probably just like trash and shit like that. It's like generic Atlantis stuff that, like, that's the reason why they want to destroy the surface world, But like at this point, I'm curious to see what if we're gonna see that happen or at all, honestly, because like I really like this young Namor. Like, the old Namor we were seeing again, like he just does not know what to do, and everything he does is just wrong. Like he fights, it's wrong. He tries to, negotiate with them, it's wrong. They don't want to listen. Like he's fighting like a losing battle, and it's losing very badly because at this point we've seen. He himself said it that he's fought like two kings, both with like with fighting and stuff like that. So he tries to reason with two more, and they don't want to. They want nothing to do with them. So it's like he does it like at this point, like what's there left for him to do? Beast King, giant walking coral man. Cool design.
Yeah.
He has. I always like to see these like weird mythical creatures that they draw, like they come up with on like the bottoms of the oceans that are like. It's super interesting. And then Orca, yeah, that was just nothing, honestly. I understand why we have to have him in this Namor comic. But that wasn't even a fight, you can say. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not that interested in the present day story, but I'm super interested in the past story. So I don't know. I'm kind of like split 50-50 here, but I don't know. I did think this is actually one of like the better comic. This is like has been the better issue so far of this series. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7.
I'm also gonna give it a 7. Let's do Redcoat next.
Redcoat.
All right, this is Redcoat number 7, written by Jeff Johns. The artist is Brian Hitch. This is kind of the epilogue to the first arc of Redcoat.
It is not kind of. It is definitely.
It's kind of the epilogue to the first arc here. Basically, it's a very simple plot. It's basically Redcoat Simon goes to Albert Einstein, goes to visit Albert Einstein at the end of his life, and they have kind of a long conversation about their lives, and their adventures together, including some stuff that we clearly have not seen yet, by the way. Like, they made reference to some stuff that we have not seen yet. We'll see if we do see that at some point down in the series, down the road. Well, Sebastian might not see it. Sebastian might drop this book before then. But then at the end of their conversation, Einstein ends up dying, and that is kind of it as far as the issue goes. And I think this issue, I think it is one of the better issues. I think it's one of the better issues recently. Certainly, I think this is a better issue than some of the back half of that first arc ended up being for me. I think like not all of the conversation with Einstein works, but I think parts of it do, particularly towards the end. And I think the moment where Einstein actually dies and you see Simon just actually fully emotional in a way that we haven't really seen him in the series yet, because he's been so afraid to get attached to people. We see a montage of different times that he's been at funerals over the years. We see like 1785, 18 something, 1909, and then this issue takes place in 1955, which is when Einstein dies. So that is interesting as well, because we haven't seen, I don't think, any of those other instances. Maybe we've seen one of them, but there's also stuff there that is unfilled in. I believe in particular, my guess is the 1909 funeral also had to do with Einstein. That's the thing that they keep referencing, is my guess. I'm not positive, but yeah. So their conversation, I think, is largely pretty good. I think actually where this issue is at its best is at the start when Simon is going to visit Einstein, and we see his journey a little bit on the way there. There's not a lot of dialogue in that section. We see him just kind of driving in a taxi to Einstein's place. He stops at a bar at one point. It's a pint of beer, doesn't drink it though, and he's just kind of sitting and it's a very contemplative moment as we see we see the care he has for Einstein in that moment, because first of all, he cleanly shaves. It's the first time in the series we've seen him do that. He makes a real effort to kind of dress up in these last moments of his friend. Again, goes to that bar seemingly to kind of drown his sorrows, because he knows this will be the last time he sees Einstein, yet doesn't actually drink it, in my mind, because he wants to make sure, for the sake of Albert, that he is fully in control of his kind of his cognizance and everything. And then we also see like it's a small line, but we see when he gets in the taxi, the cab driver says, "Hey, this is a long drive. You sure you have the money for it?" And Simon says, "Yeah, I've been saving up for this for a while," meaning that, again, he's put real thought into this. He really genuinely does care. When up to this point, we haven't seen a lot of that from him. So I think that stuff is actually the most impactful. That, and even though it didn't have a lot of dialogue, I think that actually is the most informative piece of this issue in terms of Simon's mental state. That is great. The conversation, it's good, but it's kind of, it's less so. I don't think it's quite as profound or impactful as I was hoping it would be. Still good, but so I don't know where I sit with the series right now. I think I will keep reading it for now, mostly because I want to see what happens in Geiger now with Junkyard Joe kind of coming back into focus in a little bit here, it seems. And since these two series are connected, I don't want to miss out on something over there by, not reading this series over here. But I do think there's a possibility not too long where I drop both of these series. I don't think this was an amazing issue, but I do think it was better than the last issue, and I hope that next arc will kind of pick things up a little bit, because I do like a lot of what the series is trying to do. It just doesn't always hit the execution right for me, I don't think.
This has been the best issue of the series, hands down. What can I say about this one? This one was great.
Wow, I'm a little bit surprised to hear that, actually.
No, yeah, genuinely. I mean, you know me. I didn't like most of Redcoat.
Yeah.
Basically all of it. So
yeah.
The fact that, like, this one where we just slowed it down and we just talked, and Albert just talked to Simon and just, like, slowed everything down, and it wasn't, like, I don't know. I really liked it. I liked the conversation that Albert had with him about, kind of like, not even about death. He had a small bit to say about, like, Albert had a small bit to say about that, like the death and stuff like that, and how, like, Simon, like, just, Simon doesn't do well with it, I would say. He doesn't handle it well because he doesn't, he's seen so many people die, and you saw that at the end when Albert finally dies. You saw him, like, flashback through the years, like, how many, like, people he's, like, truly cared about, like, actually, like, die. And, like, at some point, you don't get over it. It weighs on you more and more, because, like, you're never going to see these people again, but you're going to keep living on and stuff like that. That's, like, something immortals have to, like, live with and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, Albert basically just telling Simon, like, how great of a person he actually is, and Simon's still just not believing him and all that stuff. And I feel like, we're not really going full circle, but, like, it's the same thing that Albert's always been saying, and even at his old age, he's still continues to say it, and, like, he's held on to these beliefs. Like, no matter what Simon does, he's just like, yeah, you're an amazing person, and you really should just, like, you can do so much with your life. You just have to apply yourself and all this just other stuff. And then what else? Yeah, and then the beginning too as well with Simon, like, getting fully dressed, getting clean shaven, going to that bar. I don't know. I think there might have been some other significance to that bar. Honestly, I don't think it was purely what you just said. I think he might have, like, gone with Albert to that bar maybe, or something like that. But I don't really know. And then, yeah, the taxi scene with him being like, yeah, I've saved up money for this, like, knowing it's coming and all that stuff. And when he first gets there, he tells Albert about his latest, like, adventure and all that stuff, because that's what he knows. That's what Albert likes, and that's what he's, like, lived for all these these years. But no, yeah, I really liked this one. I liked the conversation that he had with Simon and Albert, between Simon and Albert. The beginning was great. Just, like, for one, I will say, for one, there was, I think I probably liked this as much because there wasn't a lot of narration.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest too.
Einstein's accent is pared back a little bit here than it was.
It is
the other ones. Yeah,
super pared back. But yeah, no, this one was great. I really like this one. I gave it an 8.
I think I'm also gonna give it an 8. I was kind of hovering between a 7 and an 8. I do think some of the stuff about Einstein saying, like, part of what makes Simon as full of potential as he is because a lot of times people don't really have the self-reflection and the introspection that comes with life until they're too old to kind of do anything about it. But he can keep living and keep staying at his current age, so he can evolve and grow past the point that a lot of mortals can do because of his long life. Stuff like that, I think, is very good. The conversation was solid again. I loved the beginning. So yeah, hopefully the series can do some good stuff with the next arc. We'll see that starts in a couple months. But yeah, as far as this one goes, 8 for me as well.
All right, let's go to Captain America.
All right, this is Captain America number 14, written by J. Michael Straczynski, and the artist is Carlos Magno. It's the start of a new arc featuring Thor and Spider-Man both. They are going to be sticking around for the entirety of this arc. We don't know how long this arc is, but it is at least the next 2 issues after this. So this issue not entirely sure what's happening here, to be honest. I thought I had a pretty good handle on it, and then the end just kind of does some real weird stuff out of nowhere. So essentially, a lot of this issue is focused around stuff that happened. It's kind of branching out from events that happened in the 2022 Thor series, or the Thor series that was running in 2022, which I believe, I don't know if it was still being written by Donny Cates at that point, but it might have been, where like an evil version of Thor called the God of Hammers comes down and destroys the town of Broxton, Oklahoma, which is the kind of new Asgard equivalent of the Marvel Comics universe. So instead, in like Endgame, Avengers Endgame in the MCU, it's in Norway. It's a very similar thing, but it's just that Asgard was physically brought like above Broxton, Oklahoma, and then the Asgardians kind of lived there and were, had a great community there, were accepted by the people of Broxton, everybody loved them, and then the town got wiped out. So Thor sees in a recording of that event like a glitch in the cameras in the recording, and goes to former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Roz Solomon, who he's good friends with, to kind of try and figure out what that's all about. So somewhere along the line, he ends up seeking the aid of Captain America, who is also in the process of seeking the aid of Spider-Man, not for hero stuff, but just for life stuff, just to kind of have a friend to hang out with, since a neighbor of his recommends that, obviously. I do really like, actually, just in their conversation, Cap and his neighbor, they're talking about, like, well, why don't you, go and talk to some other heroes who, you can relate to on this, and kind of, you can use that as a way to vent about your hero life and everything. And Steve is like, all right, let me lay it all out for you. And he goes through all these reasons, like, why that's a bad idea. Because if Steve meets Peter, for instance, both out of costume, Steve's identity is public knowledge, Peter's is not. So, like, people could use that to kind of figure out, that Peter is Spider-Man. He brings up the issue of, like, well, what if one of us is mind controlled? That's a problem. Just stuff like that. I think it's a fun little moment that kind of, pokes fun at the fact of, all the weird shit that happens in the Marvel Universe and why it makes it difficult to have friendships between superheroes out of costume. So then they all kind of team up. Peter figures out that it's a reset point, kind of, where somehow they took a snapshot of a perfect point in time in Broxton, and then so that it could be like reverted back to that if something went wrong. And so they're like, all right, let's all team up and try and figure out what's going on there. And then we hard cut to a black and white realm where there's just like people like going to war with each other. It's like Mr. Negative's realm, and there's this huge war. And this one person is like down with Dark Asgard, and that's the end of the issue. And I was at that point like, what the fuck is going on here? So that's kind of all that happens in the issue. I don't know where I fall with this one. I do still think, by the way, I think J. Michael Straczynski, the terminal problem with this run that I am deciding is the biggest factor in why I'm not a huge fan of this run. I just don't think he's got Cap's voice down. I just don't. I've talked about this a lot in the past in this series. I thought it was getting better in the last arc. I really did. I thought there were some good Captain America moments there, particularly in issue, I believe it was 11. There was some good Cap dialogue. There's been some good Cap moments, but on the whole, I just don't buy Cap's voice in this. It doesn't feel like the Captain America that I am familiar with. Conversely, I actually think he nails both Spider-Man and Thor's character writing here. That is not a surprise, by the way. J. Michael Straczynski has written both the Thor and Spider-Man series in the past. This is kind of the team up of all three of his kind of main series at Marvel. So that's not a surprise. And I think that does, them being as big a part of this as they are, I think will maybe help this arc a little bit more, because Cap is not the focal point. And again, I think he is kind of the weakest link of his own story right now. I like the plot. There's interesting stuff here, but I like the whole reset point with Broxton, like some of that stuff, I think it's already starting to push into the realm of a little bit overly complicated. And then you add into that like the hard cut to the Dark Asgard thing, which seemingly has no connection. Of course it will have a connection, by the way, to this overarching, like, of course it will. But for now, like, it's just there's no, like, natural transition over there. It is just like, bam! And it felt really jarring, especially when the rest of the issue was kind of so mundane in comparison. So, yeah, I don't really know about this arc. I think there's potential here, and I think I will at least read the next issue, but I don't know still on this series. I again, I want to like this more than I do. And this could be a step in the right direction, but it could also be kind of reverting back to the not great parts of the series. Because I think this series has just been very inconsistent. Like, there's stuff I liked here, absolutely. I think the last arc was a big improvement over the first. But yeah, just weird series, weird issue. I just don't know how to feel about this one right now.
I know how I feel about it. This wasn't a Cap comic.
That's true, but I think honestly that's part of why I liked it so much. I think the parts of this I liked the least were the parts with Cap in them. So,
well, exactly. So then, how are you gonna say it's a Cap comic? This had the least to do about Cap. This is more of a Thor comic, and the other two were joining him.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Like, that's my problem. That's my biggest problem with it. Honestly,
my guess is that it just didn't make sense to fit this into Immortal Thor, and Straczynski wanted to write with these characters anyway, so they just did it over here.
Yeah, and like, sure, fine, whatever, but like, the one part we did have with Captain America, is basically how he's like lonely, essentially. Like, he doesn't have friends. Like, it's always been like he's worked on teams and stuff like that, and he's hung out with them, but it's never been like on a personal level like this. And so, for some reason, he thinks of Spider-Man, of all people.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird.
Why? Like, of all people, Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe he'd go to, like, first of all, he does have Sam, by the way. They're very good friends. But also, like, you'd think that maybe, like, to be fair, like, Thor he'd probably go to before Peter.
I'm saying,
yeah.
I don't understand. Like, Peter? And there was also, like, the big thing about, like, revealing identity spiel, like, and it kept going on. I feel like it's even to the point where, like, when he called Peter to, like, come over for, like, work instead of, like, personal, towards the end, he's like, does Thor already know your secret identity? Like, he's being super careful with that when it's Thor, of all people. Like, obviously it's not Captain America's discretion to, like, reveal someone else's identity, but, like, fucking Thor, what's he gonna do? Genuinely, like, I don't think he's gonna be that careful about it, but
I mean, he's wanted for murder on Earth right now, so, you never know with that. I guess he might just kill Peter.
Fair. That is fair. They didn't talk about that at all.
No.
What else? Yeah, that Dark Asgard, again, feel that's more of a Thor thing than a Cap thing. So, it's just Thor team up with two friends, but I don't know. I think it's fine, honestly. I don't hate the story. I just say I don't think it's a Cap story. It's not centered around him at all.
But I'm kind of surprised you have a problem with that, because you haven't really liked this series that much lately.
No, I know, but if you're gonna say, yeah, this is a Captain America comic, make it a Captain America comic.
All right.
Don't be like, yeah, it's Cap up until this point. Now we're gonna kind of focus on Thor in a Cap comic.
Cap, by the way, doesn't even show up until like page 4 or 5. It's all Thor and Spider-Man until then.
Yeah, so it's, I don't know. He's like in the back burner in his own comic. That doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, I think other than that, I think, like, I didn't mind Peter in this one. I felt like they got his voice down pretty well, actually. How he's still, like, uncomfortable with what happened the last time they met up in this Cap comic. I think it was number 2, wasn't it? Pretty early on.
Yeah, it was number 2.
Yeah, when he had his help with when he called Cap to help with the Sinister Six, and turns out it was a false alarm. Like, he was still reeling over that even this much later. And so, I think they got Peter down actually pretty well. But besides that, I didn't.
Oh, shit. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I was just looking while you were talking there. Apparently, there's only 2 more issues, and then this run is done.
Oh, is it just 2?
Yeah, they're not going past this arc. Like, Strat is about to be off the book.
Oh, jeez.
I know. That really took me by surprise. I was not expecting that.
All right, well, this is the end of Captain America comic.
Yeah, so are you going to keep reading the next 2 issues of this, Sebastian?
Well, I was kind of wondering, because, like, I didn't overly hate it. I just was bothered by the fact that, like, they didn't focus on Cap at all.
Yeah.
Like, besides that, though, I didn't think it was, like, terrible.
Yeah.
But, I mean, besides that, I'm going to give it a 6, simply because, like, again, I'm, like, broken record here, but the Cap comic, focus a little bit on Cap,
Yeah. That's fair, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7. I do think the story was decent enough. I didn't mind it. Genuinely, my thoughts are like scrambled now, because I just was like so surprised to see that this series is just done in 2 issues. So I've kind of been on the fence about whether or not I would keep going with the series, because I don't know. I haven't loved it, but this the fact that there's only 2 issues left and that I, was planning on picking up the next issue at least, now makes me be like, well, I guess I definitely am going to just finish this out. I'm not going to stop this one with 1 issue left, unlike I sometimes do. But yeah, 7 for this issue. Yeah, not terrible, but weird that this series is just about to end. Especially when there were I felt like there were kind of still some unanswered questions about the previous arc. So, yeah. Okay, let's do Ultimate X-Men.
All right.
This is Ultimate X-Men number 8, written and drawn and everything by Peach Momoko. Basically everything. Lettered by Travis Lanham, but everything else by Peach Momoko. Okay, so we didn't talk about issue number 7. I loved issue number 7. Issue 7 was amazing. This one I do feel like is a bit of a drop back down. It's just last issue, a lot of stuff started kind of being put into motion, right? A lot of plot events started kind of being kickstarted, where previously there weren't a whole lot. This one kind of slows it back down a little bit again. We do see that one of Nico's friends is indeed this version of Cyclops. I believe it's Natsu. Yeah, Natsu Tsukishima. So that's kind of a brief section. We have a lot of this issue focused on this one person. Her name is Yukio. And she's like a TikToker that goes and actually more like a YouTube spooky, this is the school where 4 people killed themselves, right? That's kind of what she's doing in this issue. She's making a video about the school that Hisako went to where Tsubasa and then all those other people killed themselves. So, doing kind of a video thing about that, at one point running into Armor herself, who was not very happy to see her. There's also stuff with this version of Psylocke and her brother going kind of on the run because they basically posted online the pictures they took of the body they found in the bag that was all cut up and everything. And now Viper and the Matrix Council are after her. And that's all I remember from this one.
That's pretty much all it was, I want to say.
I feel like there was something with May in this, but I just don't remember what it was.
I don't remember her being in this one too much. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. So regardless, my feelings on it are this series is still pretty decent. I actually think, though, this might be getting to the point where this might be my least favorite of the Ultimate books. I think Ultimate Black Panther might be jumping this. It's not bad. I want to get that out of the way. It's not bad. And again, I loved last issue. If we can get that momentum built up again, amazing. That would be awesome. I think there's some really cool stuff that they could do with this series going forward, and I do hope it gets to that point. However, this one just, again, slowed it down back to that kind of, more snail's pace, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think the pacing of the series has been kind of a breath of fresh air in the kind of, more chill slice of life thing that it has often been doing, despite the fact that there is still, some of that kind of more creepy horror elements in there as well. I don't have much to say on this one at all. I loved last issue. This one is a step down for me. It's not bad still, but I do hope it picks back up that momentum that I feel like it did kind of lose a little bit of in this issue.
No, yeah, I think this one actually kind of suffers a bit from jumping around so much, honestly. Because it does do that quite often in this one. It goes from, it goes from the YouTuber in the beginning to somebody else. I couldn't tell you who. Was it this one or the last one that they went to that festival? I think that was the last one.
I don't know. That might have been this one.
I'm pretty sure it was the last one actually, because that's where you first saw oh my god, Psylocke. So I'm pretty sure it was actually the last one. And then it jumped in between a bunch of characters between the cult of Nakamoto.
The Children of the Atom, yeah.
Children of the Atom. You saw a couple people kind of questioning the Children of the Atom, specifically children that were a part of the cult due to their parents. And you saw specifically the one I remember is the guy basically they questioning it, and his mom was like, nah, don't listen to everything you read online, give me the phone. And he's like, no, and he lights her on fire accidentally.
Right, and that did happen.
Yeah. And then
the leader was also we're gonna take over the world soon or something, I think, as well.
Yeah, that was at the very end. No, the world was gonna end. Not specifically that they were gonna take it over. The world was gonna end. The thing with Armor, I don't know. She specifically says why she's upset. I don't know when that specifically happened. Basically, she was upset that she basically had to protect the cult of Adam, but I don't know when that was stated that she had to do that. We didn't get much of Nico in this one. We got most of it with Natsu and her friend Mori. We got introduced to Natsu being like the new Cyclops, kind of.
Yeah.
It's only out of one eye that she shoots beams.
Yeah. And also the person like that was like bullying her that kind of led to her shooting the beam was like, she's a killer.
Yeah, that's another thing that's gonna hopefully get answered. But yeah, I think I think this one suffered a bit from jumping around so much and not focusing too much on one specific character. I think we've like established so many characters at this point, and she's trying to like tell everybody's story at the exact same time. And I think it's we're not grasping enough of each individual story to like actually get like the full like look on everything. So I don't know. I'm not getting lost per se, but it's starting to get to the point where I'm having a slight trouble following what all is happening between every single character, specifically just the ones we haven't really been seeing, like Armor, Maystorm, McMay, maybe Nico. I don't remember what's going on with Nico right now.
Well, apparently May and Surge are fighting each other next issue, so that's something.
That's something. But yeah, I mean, I still think this is pretty good. I still like the art style and all that stuff. Still like the whole creepy bit to it. But yeah, I just think it's suffering a little bit from jumping around so much. So I'm gonna give it a 7.
I'm also gonna give it a 7.
We're gonna be talking about Knicks number 4. The New York Knicks.
Yeah, the New York Knicks. Also, Nyx, the god of death, the goddess of death from the hit video game Hades. The thing about Hades, Sebastian, is I think it just might be the best roguelike of all time that I have played, at least.
How many roguelites have you played?
Good question. Not that many. I've played that one. I've played Vampire Survivors. I've played some other one, probably.
It's the only roguelike that I've actually beaten.
I have not fully beaten it. I've beaten like the main like gameplay part of the game, but I haven't finished all the story stuff because you have to beat it like 10 times to actually beat it. Yeah, I think I beat it 7 times.
I've done everything on that game.
Yeah,
got everybody's like level to the max. That did, yep.
But we're not here to talk about the gameplay of Hades. We're here to talk about the character Nyx, who is the stepmom. Well, more like adopted mother figure of Zagreus, because of course, and I'm sure you all know this because you're all experts on Greek mythology. But Hades and Persephone, right? They had their thing in the above world. Persephone had to stay above world, of course, because she didn't want to go down and live at Hades forever. I mean, she did for a while, but then she went back to the surface world. Of course, the rest of the gods don't know this, because it could cause war between all of them. But Zagreus, he's stuck in Hades, and Nyx is kind of one of the, the few. How long are you to let me do this bit, by the way?
I was just letting you talk, man. Honestly,
this is the problem, Sebastian. Sometimes you just have to say "shut up" and then be like, "Yo."
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. No, we're actually here to talk about NYX number 4, written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, and the artist is Enid Balam. Now, question, Sebastian. Did you notice anything different about this issue?
Oh, no, don't tell me.
No fucking way you didn't notice the art was different.
It's been a while since I read the last one.
Oh my god, Sebastian.
So no.
They're so fucking different. The styles here are like opposite of the artistic spectrum.
You know what? Thinking back and remembering the second one specifically, where Laura met with Mojo and stuff, you have a point.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, the art, by the way, I'm not a huge fan of it here. I think it is a downgrade for me personally. Of course, I do believe this is just a fill-in artist on this issue. I think it will be back to the main artist of Francesco Mortorino at some point. I don't know when, though, because there's another fill-in issue. There's another fill-in art. Okay, Francesco's back next issue, so yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, number 5, yep.
Why don't I see? Oh, okay. I was looking at Colin Kelly, the writer. Oh,
yeah.
My bad.
Anyway, this issue, this is the Prodigy-focused issue of the series, his human name being David Elaine, and he is the mutant professor at that school that Kamala and Sophie are going to. So a lot of this issue is Kamala basically going to David and being like, "Hey, we need your help here. I know where the Krakoan is. I know where he's going to be. And I know he wants me to know that because he wants us to have a big fight in Times Square." So Prodigy's initially like, well, you know what? No. Because, again, he's kind of he's in a kind of delicate position as being a teacher at this school in New York, and everybody knows he's a mutant, and he's kind of, teaching these mutant classes. He is concerned that if he, ends up getting involved in a fight, in a high-profile mutant conflict, that he will be fired or something. So he initially says no. Kamala goes, fights the Krakoan, at which point Kamala's also like, hey, Sophie, I know you're working with him, so maybe just help me out, And Sophie doesn't. She just decides to, kind of side with the Krakoan ultimately anyway. Krakoan being like, hey, we're going to take over New York. And then Prodigy does show up, and they have a fight, and Krakoan loses, and then, that's kind of it. So there is some, there are some teases to upcoming stuff, particularly about, what Sophie's deal is going to be now, how her kind of allegiances might shift. Also, Empath is still a threat. Some of the other people that were working with the Krakoan are still in play. And there's obviously Mojo as well, but that didn't really have any focus on this issue. This issue, I think, last issue was a real highlight for me for this series. I think last issue was a very solid one. I loved the focus on Anole, who was a character I'm not that familiar with. I think bringing the Morlocks into it was cool. That all was good. This issue, I did not feel the same. I didn't feel as compelled by Prodigy's character in this as Anole's last issue. And I was hoping that would not be the case. I was hoping that the writers here would really get to make me care about this character. I just didn't feel that way. And this is by the way completely in character. I understand why it's here, but he does a lot of narrating through journal notes that pop up on page, philosophizing about a lot of the nature of mutants and humans and their conflict and how to kind of try and ameliorate that. I just think it's a lot. It's a lot of narration. It's very overwrought. And, I am somebody who thinks the conversation about the philosophy of mutants is interesting. And, I do think that it is interesting to see his perspective on trying to de-escalate the conflict between the two, between humans and mutants. But it's so much, and it kind of goes in circles a lot of the time, that I just found it to be not that interesting or engaging. I just felt kind of bored by it. I think I don't know, some of it, there's some points that I do like. I really like when Kamala is laying out her plan and talking about how she has found out all this information. She comes in with a whole bunch of math and is like, all right, hear me out. This is all the stuff that's going down. I like that. That was cool. I liked when Prodigy showed up on the scene of the fight, but the rest of it did feel like a downgrade to me from the previous issue, which I do think was a real, again, high point for the series so far. So I'm hoping the focus on Sophie next issue will be we'll kind of bring back some of that more compelling side of the narrative that I feel was dropped a little bit here. I also think, by the way, it's weird to me. It feels way too rushed that the Krakoan is just suddenly done. His plot is over. That feels weird to me because it didn't feel like they built him up that much. He showed up in the first issue, and then there kind of wasn't much development on him in issues 2 or 3, and then it's just he's done now. I know there's other stuff in the background that is on the back burner that they can still do and build and resolve going forward. There's still more plot to be, sorted through. But it is weird to me that they were just yeah, fuck it. Just get rid of this guy. So yeah, hopefully again, upcoming stuff will kind of get the series back on track. But I do think this is probably the weakest issue of the series. Yeah, so I don't know. It's not terrible. I didn't hate it, but I do think this is weaker than the other couple issues.
Listen, bring back Mojo. That was
yeah.
more interesting than this.
I agree. They will be, to be fair, in a couple issues, it looks like. But
also, I don't know why Gwenpool was in this. That was very random in the background.
Yeah, she's just on a billboard at one point.
I was like, what the fuck? And then, yeah, dude, I just was not interested in this story at all. The Miss Marvel bit and the Sophie Cuckoo bit, that was I was like, oh, okay, that's actually pretty cool. She's just hey, listen, yeah, I know you're evil and all this stuff, but I hope I can convince you to come over to the good side because I know you are a good person and you don't want to be evil. But
even that felt a bit rushed to me, though. I would have preferred that develop over a couple more issues, I think.
I just felt that was very Miss Marvel-ish to just get straight to the point and just
sure.
Be listen, this is just this.
For me, and to be fair, I have not read the next issue, obviously, but I kind of think because the next issue is the Sophie Cuckoo centric issue. I think maybe that should have been that this issue should have been flipped with that. We had more time to develop her context and her, role in this, her playing this double agent kind of thing, with this other group and with NYX, to develop that side of it so it feels more impactful, and then we do this to conclude out this first arc. I think that also would have made it, I feel like Hellion would have, or not Hellion, Krakoan would have been given more development, as we would have seen how he interacted with Sophie before this. I think that would have maybe been better.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could also see that, yes. What could I say? Yeah, I didn't care for Prodigy's character, honestly. Like,
yeah,
he was super torn between what to do and stuff like that. And ultimately, he chose to go and fight for, I don't even know why, honestly. I really don't. What else? Yeah, I didn't enjoy this one too much, honestly. I thought, I don't know, slow isn't the right word specifically. I just found it boring a bit, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Dull.
Yeah, dull. That would be the correct word right there. Dull. It just not a lot really happening, and obviously it moves forward the story of the Krakoan and all that stuff. But I just, once they introduced Mojo and that side, I was just invested in that, and we haven't seen that since. So yeah, I just not too interested in this. And so yeah, I'm gonna give it a 6.
I too am going to give it a 6. Okay, let's do Predator versus Black Panther here. Okay, this is written by Benjamin Percy, and a couple artists on this. We have Chris Allen and Sean Damian Hill. Right off the bat, I really don't like the art in this series. I have kind of been feeling that for the past couple issues, but in this issue, I really felt that. There's points where I couldn't even tell what the fuck was going on, particularly in the scene with Shuri, where, like, the dude she's with is being pulled into the portal or something. It's like, what the fuck is happening? So, anyway, basically, there's, like, there's, like, two kind of parts of this issue. We have the one side, which is Shuri and that other dude outside the protective bubble of Wakanda. The dude she's with gets killed by one of the Predators, and she ends up killing that one in return. Tries to find out a system to get back inside the dome, kind of takes some Predator gear and hijacks it so that she can try and get back inside the Wakanda dome. And at the very end, Falcon shows up. I'll talk about that a little bit later, though. So the other side of it is the stuff inside Wakanda, where basically it's just T'Challa and Okoye and the rest of the Dora Milaje kind of planning out how to take down all the Yautja. Ultimately, they do kind of a stealth mission into the Great Mound, where a lot of the Yautja are kind of hanging out because they want to get all the armor and stuff from Vibranium. So, they fight a couple of them. One of them doesn't die when they think it does, and then it kind of sounds the alarm, so they don't have the stealth advantage anymore. And, like, that's it. That's all there is in this issue. I think I don't know. I do still think this is better than the Wolverine one. I think it's better. Granted, I did not read that much of that series yet. I am planning to finish that series at some point, but I haven't read all of it yet. I do think, again, there is potential for this being this overarching story that is one continuous narrative, as opposed to kind of the Wolverine approach, where it was him and the Predator fighting, like, over different time periods, and so it was kind of it was less cohesive and more of this kind of disjointed, like, battle. So I think there's potential here. The problem, I think, is that, like, I just don't feel like we've seen enough of the conflict between Wakanda and the Yautja. And we have seen fights, absolutely, but it doesn't feel like any of them have held any real significance. I don't think. It's just felt like the Wakandans kind of just doing some cannon fodder stuff with the Yautja, and occasionally vice versa. But, like, T'Challa has not even run into the main guy yet, like the main one. And I get they want to save that for the finale. I get that. However, I do just think that, like, the war between these two forces has not felt big enough for me to be exciting, but has also felt too big to the point where it's just like, there's been enough of these instances of them fighting where it feels like it's not special, but it doesn't feel like the war has been big enough to make it consequential. And so I just feel like the conflict between the Wakandans and the Yautja is just not really working for me, unfortunately. Of course, I will read the last issue. The next issue is the last issue. But yeah, I don't know. Just the conflict here is not working for me. I do think it's interesting that Sam is here, like, genuinely. I think the fact that in an early days version of the Falcon pops up here, that's cool. That could lead to some interesting dynamics going forward in the next issue. And seeing him also get in on the action, I think is a good idea. But yeah, this issue is the series is starting to kind of I'm starting to develop some problems with this issue, the series rather. And, I think unless the next issue is amazing, I am going to walk away from this one still feeling pretty underwhelmed overall, I think.
I think story-wise, I do like this one better than the Wolverine one, honestly. Ultimately, even though we know we're not moving slow per se, but I would have liked to see them fight already, like Black Panther and the main guy.
Yeah, or at least share a page together.
Yeah, at some point. I think they did, honestly.
I don't think they've met yet. I don't think they've met.
In the second one, I thought he threw the spear and then he got called away.
I thought that was different.
I thought that was the main guy, but I could.
But even then, I think either way, they didn't both know they were there. I don't think. I think T'Challa was unaware, or somebody was unaware at that. So they haven't really confronted each other yet in any way.
Okay, yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, T'Challa didn't know he was there though. But yeah, I would have liked to see them meet at least at this point. T'Challa figured out what they're after, vibranium. So the next issue where we're gonna get the big fight there between them two, meeting each other finally. The Shuri bit, that old man got bodied. Absolutely.
Yeah, he got a spear straight through the chest. Yeah.
And Shuri eventually was able to kill him, the Yautja. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what's gonna happen now. She has the Yautja helmet, so she can, her being her tech savvy self, she can reverse engineer that shit probably. Old pantsuit Falcon over here, looking mighty.
Yeah, that is definitely his classic costume. They go full in on that.
I think the suit is just awful.
The suit's not great, but it's like a Robin kind of thing where I think I think the art does not do that suit any favors. Yeah. No, but
I really don't have a lot to say on this. I'm dragging here to try and find something to say. It's fine. I like the story more than the Wolverine one. The art is lackluster, honestly. I would have liked to genuinely see more fights between T'Challa and the Yautja. I feel like he's just been also getting bodied, but he gets saved simply because he has vibranium armor. So, I don't know. I would like to see some fights between him. I haven't really been seeing much fighting, and I mean, sure, I understand that's what the Predator does is they hunt from the shadows and all that stuff, but I don't know, man. I would like to see something. So yeah, I'm kind of both of at this point the Wolverine one and this one have me feeling just lackluster, honestly. Not that.
I agree.
I don't even know what to give it, honestly. I'm kind of in between a 6 and a 7. I think I'm gonna give the last one a 7, so I'll give this one a 7 as well.
I am giving this one a 6. I just don't think it's. I think again, some of this kind of stuff where you have these two big IPs crossing over, I think can feel more exciting at the start, and then when you realize they're not really doing that much with it, I just start to feel like it's kind of a waste of potential. It's kind of how I feel with this one, so I'm gonna give it a 6. Okay, that would lead us to the final issue of the episode, which is the Nice House by the Sea, issue number 4. Written by James Tynion IV, and the artist is Alvaro Martinez Bueno. This is, by the way, the publishing schedule I am a little bit unsure about, because now it seems like the next 2 issues we're doing every other month instead of every month. I was worried this would happen with the series. I think it happened with the previous one as well, but I think even that one they did 6 issues and took a year gap and then did the next 6 issues. This one, the publishing schedule was already getting inconsistent, so that does not bode super well. As for the story itself, though, pretty good. I like it. This issue sees, it's a lot of dialogue, it's a lot of discussions and conversations, and it's split into kind of 2 sides, right? We've got the lake house and we got the sea house. At the sea house, we've got basically the rest of the residents of the house asking Oliver about what was going on, with the lake house people coming over to their house. And Oliver refuses to tell them, which leads to, by far, the most brutal scene in the series so far, where, because they have control over their bodies there, so they go in and just remove the bones from Oliver's legs, and you see it graphically snaps out. It's pretty brutal. It's gross. And then they also twist his mouth shut so that he can't get the attention of Max before they're done torturing him. At the lake house, we have all of them discussing basically what to do now that Max is coming over to their house in some undetermined but short amount of time to talk to Walter. Their plan basically is to tell Max partially what happened and say that they got sick of Walter and basically just told him to go fuck himself, and then he just got like all mopey and left for a while, and they don't know where he is. That is a believable story because Walter has been known to just get all mopey and go and, you know, just disappear and stuff. So that would be believable for Max. It would also make it so that she does not know that they killed him. And I think, oh God, what was their plan for this? Because they were talking about how they were gonna plan to make it so that they would tell Max that Naya died, which that was in the previous series. She died unintentionally, and that was the reason they told Walter to fuck off. But then I don't know if they decided that was actually the way to go, because they also mentioned that would also let Max on to the fact that Walter had chosen more people for the house than he was supposed to. So I don't remember if they actually settled on doing that or not. But regardless, they settle upon a plan that is similar to that. And then, you know, they also have they go over some of the backstory between Oliver and Walter, and how Walter went to a school across the country from where a lot of his friends were to go and, you know, stay close with Oliver, and then Oliver changed colleges without telling Walter, and so he I guess he went full like alien mode and like killed some guy at like the place that the college like admissions or something. Walter just kind of he got real pissed off, and then he and Oliver never talked after that, except for one time apparently, which we don't hear about more here. So that's kind of the gist of this issue. And you know, there is a lot of dialogue here, right? It's a lot of conversations. That is very standard with this writer. He loves to do lengthy conversations between a bunch of characters where they're all kind of, you know, they're throwing around classic James Tynion dialogue. I think that dialogue is, as per usual, very good. I think he has a very good handle on character writing, very good handle on dialogue writing. I think the other thing is, like, this issue starts to kick into gear some more definitive conflict than has been present in the first 3 issues of the series, right? Conflict between members of the House by the Sea, and conflict between the members of the Lake House and Max. And so that has all started to ratchet up. I'm sure over the next 2 issues, you'll see that come to a head, and then it will kind of slow down a little bit for the you know, issues 7, 8, maybe 9 as well, and then we'll kind of ramp it back up for the conclusion. I imagine this will be 12 issues again, like the first series was. So I imagine it'll be structured fairly similarly as well. But yeah, I still like this series. I think the you know, the horror is starting to ramp up here with the kind of, you know, the grotesque nature of the other the other people in the House by the Sea. Removing, you know, Oliver's bones and everything. Stuff like that is starting to both ratchet up the conflict and the more horrific elements of the series. And so I do feel like this series is gaining momentum, and I think the next 2 issues are going to be pretty fucking crazy. It's just a shame that they got delayed so far, because it might make it a little bit difficult to keep up with where the series is, I think.
Biggest thing I remember about this, reading this one, was they were going to do a Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I have not.
You should watch that. It's a great movie, Weekend at Bernie's. I don't know. I can explain the plot real quick. I don't know, because I understood most of that conversation simply because
all right, everybody, buckle up.
Of the movie. Well, essentially, this really rich guy that owned a beach house basically got assassinated at his beach house, and these 2 people that got invited there, or I don't remember if they got invited there specifically, but these 2 people that were there discovered his dead body and pretended he was alive just so they like could stay at his house, essentially. And so the dude that killed Bernie basically went crazy because he thought he was alive the entire time, and he kept trying to kill him, and it was never working simply because he was already dead. And that's basically what they're gonna do. But like, I guess with like Max's body, they were gonna Weekend at Bernie him, just pretend
with
he was
Walter
alive.
I think you mean.
Oh yeah, with Walter. Who's Max? I don't know.
Max is the leader. She's the leader of the Sea House. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got them confused there, but yeah, they were gonna do a Weekend at Bernie's with that. They decided against that, obviously, but it was funny. I thought it was a funny joke. Anyway, I don't know. I always have a hard time reviewing this because I don't know what the fuck's happening.
At the start of the series, you were like, no, I think I'll be fine without reading the other one. Yeah. And now you're like, what the fuck?
I genuinely am so lost. There's like just going between the 2 houses, and genuinely, I think the art does not help me. That face, like, to me, all of their faces almost look identical. I don't know. It's so hard to tell who's who sometimes. And like when you don't focus on a character, like I know who Oliver is at this point, obviously because we've focused on him so much. I know who I can recognize Walter. I want to say genuinely that's it. Actually, just those two.
Yeah, the
Everybody
others,
else,
to be fair, I don't know that many of the rest of them either. The only ones that I mostly do are Ryan, Nora, and Reg, but that's just they played such a huge part in the first series.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I besides literally Walter and Oliver, I could not tell you who's who. You know, there was that pretty gruesome scene towards the end against Oliver by the other members of the Sea House, right? That's the Sea House there that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, that they know that like Oliver was like visited by other people when they thought that they were the last surviving humans. So they're kind of like trying to be like, hey man, what's the deal? And he's not telling them, so they decide to torture it out of him. Yeah, and then there was also, I do remember there was this thought that got thrown about at the lake house with Walter, you know, basically like loving Oliver so much, and then them knowing that, you know, one of these houses, because they know they're not the only ones, and there's a lot more, that only one of these houses was also going to survive. And so basically they were like, well, what if, you know, Walter knowing that this other person was at this other house, why would he want us to survive, essentially knowing Oliver would survive. I remember that was thrown about there at some point. Besides that, I think that was pretty much it though. Yeah, the whole Weekend at Bernie's bit, and then back at the Sea House with Oliver, and basically them being like, okay, what's the deal, man? And yeah, that's pretty much it though. I actually found this one kind of straightforward. Besides me not knowing the fucking characters at all, it was pretty straightforward. Just more Walter drama towards Oliver, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know, Devin.
I'm gonna give it an 8. I think it's good. Also, I want to point out I just saw this review from Echo on League of Comic Geeks, and
that is a review.
The rating is 5 stars. Yeah, and the review just says every single issue I am gagged and gooped, and I don't know what the fuck that means, but I just thought that was funny. So yeah. Anyway, that'd wrap it up for this episode of Verse My Niche Comics. As always, thank you everybody for watching or listening. Next episode is kind of an exciting one. We got that. Okay, well, I'm not that excited about this one actually. Absolute Superman. It's written by the same writer as Namor, so I'm not sure about this one. It could be good. That writer has written a lot of great stuff in the past, but it could be bad, so we'll see. Aliens vs. Avengers, though, after 3 months away, 2.5 really. That second issue is back. I'm excited to see how that goes. Cool premise in the first issue. Let's see if I can carry it over. Next issue of Avengers. Cool, like Black Panther solo issue, it seems. I'm excited for that one as well. Next issue of Batman. God, I don't know what the series is doing. I'm excited for this issue. I like the new arc from what we've seen so far, which is granted just one issue. But the fact that they had Chips and RC do one more arc after his, years-long fail-safe, saga, only to immediately replace him after this arc, just is very weird. So, but I'm excited for this issue. I like the series. I like the series right now. We have the actual last issue of Joshua Williamson's Green Arrow run in the annual. So yeah, that'll close that out. Again, it's weird because I feel like the previous issue of Green Arrow number 17, Legacy 350, which we talked about last week, but we don't have the recording for that one. That's one of the ones that we that was lost in the technical error. But that issue seemed like a really good conclusion to the Josh Williamson Green Arrow run, so it's weird that they're still going forward, but whatever. A new series, JSA, this is part of the DC All-In initiative. It's written by Jeff Lemire. Cool lineup, like weird, unusual lineup of characters. To be fair, like this is kind of a lot of these characters have been on the JSA in the past, but I'm more excited because it's written by Jeff Lemire, who I fucking love. He's an amazing writer, so I'm excited for that. The Sacrifices returns next week. Very good series. Excited for that. Special, number 0 issue of Something's Killing the Children. Not sure what to expect here, but again, very good series, so cool. The Ultimates, the end of the first arc. Looks like the Ultimates going up against these the Matrix Council Hulk. Very excited for that. That series is very good. I'm excited to see how that kind of develops. And then we have the X-Men block as well with X Factor, which I like now. X-Force, which Sebastian hates, and X-Men, which I think is also pretty good right now. So, anything on your end that you would like to shout out?
We got a couple here. We have Batgirl number 1, new solo series from her. We got.
This is, by the way, Cassandra Cain, Batgirl as well.
Oh yeah, I should say that.
Yeah,
I should specify. Yes, there's 50.
Yeah,
anyway,
there's a lot.
I don't remember if you said it, but Birds of Prey.
I did not say that, but that's the one you're making me read, right? I think it is.
Yeah, I think that's what I
think you told me last time that's what you were going to go for. Yeah.
Yeah. We got Blood Hunters And then I don't know if I'm gonna read it, but Kahori, it's a one shot based off the What If character from season 2.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, as always, again, thank you everybody for watching or listening. If you enjoyed the episode, you can, of course, leave a like on the video. If you are watching on YouTube, you can also subscribe to the channel over there so that you, so that you can see other episodes of this podcast. And you can also hit the bell notification so that you do not miss an episode, because you will be notified when we post new videos over here. You can also, of course, leave us a comment. Let us know what some of your favorite comments are from recent past. And you can also get in contact with us at our email address, which is earthsmightiestcommentspod@gmail.com. That is all one word. And, of course, if you're on Spotify, you can also leave or follow the show over there, rather, if you would like to make sure that you do not miss any episodes over there as well. Also, there's actually, I should mention this, there's a new just like comment feature on Spotify as well. So you can also comment on the Spotify episode if you also want to let us know some of your favorite comments have been from recent stuff there as well. So yeah, thank you again everybody for watching or listening. As always, we appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next episode.